All right, welcome back to another containerization crash course. We are going to continue to push for knowledge, learning, and proficiency in Docker, and this time we have to add in another vital component to building dynamic Docker environments on your local machine, and that is going to be the compose ability. Composability? Compostability? I should remember to put my compost. Anyway, so I created a thing to help out on this. You guys can feel free to pull it down if you want to. I'll put the link in the description. But it is a Samba demo, or from the realm of Windows. SMB, server message block, is a way to create shared folders. Samba is a open source or Linux implementation of that. That was like 85% correct, so that's good enough for now. But once you clone it, you then have it. So we can cd into those files, clear it out, and in here we do have something that we should be familiar with after the last couple of videos. I do have a Dockerfile. Right, there's a lot more in this one. It's going to use Rocky Linux 9. It's going to install Samba and utilities, create a user, create a Samba directory. It's going to add data into it, and it's going to configure it to run and expose the ports. So, with that being said, that's not all, because if we were to do that as the Dockerfile as we've been doing it, we would have then had to, do it in tunnel lines and in detached and all this stuff. So we're not going to leave it there though, right? Instead of having a really ridiculously long Docker run or Docker exec command to then use this Dockerfile, right? So if I do head Dockerfile, just to show the first little bit, I want to be able to run all of this stuff. I want to be able to use this, but I don't really want to have to do it every time. So that is where we bring in the Docker compose, which is a YML file or a YAML. And all this does is it says, oh man, I really need to fix that version. Anyway, it says, hey, with the services of Samba, build from my current directory using my Dockerfile a container named Samba demo with the host name Samba demo. I have the security disabled for reasons, and then it adds in our ports right here. So instead of having to specify those with the port flag during our Docker run or Docker exec, we can have it inside of the compose. And now we should just be able to, from in our demo Samba directory, just throw a Docker compose up. Was it Docker compose up? And it will run the stuff, right? And it's actually going to build and run, right? So I don't have to do Docker build dot and with a tag or then followed up with Docker exec or Docker run. My compose is going to do it all at once. If we do it as detached, we would have to do Docker compose down to kill it. If we do it non-detached, Ctrl+C once this is finished, we'll kind of exit gracefully, or at least try to. So we went all the way back to when we were using Docker, when we were just using Docker directly, and we were building things as we did, and then committing them back, to then using Dockerfile to automate some of those build tasks, to have a custom image to build our container from. And now Docker Compose is just a way to bring all of that together. However you write it in your docker-compose.yml, however you write it in your Dockerfile, as long as you call to them correctly, it will be available. And so to check that, let's go ahead and just pull up another terminal here in Kali Linux. And let's first do docker ps. So I've got this running. It has some instructions from the Docker file on how to run. So now I should be able to find myself. Let's see if this works. Nmap localhost. I have both 139 and 445 open through that container. So now if I go ahead and do something like SMB client, which is how we can interact with Samba easily, and then call to Was it backslashes or forward slashes? Let's do forward slashes. Localhost. I can then kind of catch those shares, right? I didn't use the actual credentials from that demo. Y'all can feel free to dive a little bit deeper if you want, but this is just a way to get it up and running. I was able to, through just docker space compose space up, I was able to get the demo Samba running, and then with docker ps, I was able to verify it. I nmapped my local host to show that on my host, the services of NetBIOS SSN and 445 are open. And then I was able to use SMB client list and then the target to see what was there. So I've got 2 shares that we could look into and several other issues with the security of that container that y'all can feel free to explore further and let me know what you find. But that is going to wrap, so I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this terminal, and like I said, if you use it in the foreground instead of the background, Ctrl+C is a way to gracefully stop it, as easy as it is. Coffee break. And then once everything is stopped, you can then verify it with docker ps or docker ps-a. I'm going to use Docker images really quick just to show that I do still have that demo Samba in use, right? And I forgot to close out my tell ubu. So let's go ahead and PSA really quick. And let's use the longer command to just close both of those out. So docker rm, and then inside of that, do the PSA awk print1. This is going to kill all of our containers. Response code, because no such container exists, because awk print1 grabs that first column. But now if I docker PSA, nothing's in there. Docker images, nothing is in use, but I still have them. So if I wanted to run demo Samba again, that's funny, I might not have to do the compose because I've already got the image, or I could just do the compose and keep it simple. But with that being said, that is all for today's video. I will see you all in the next one.